Hi, Thomas. Welcome again to this exciting podcast. And it is going more than 2 or 3 months now when we start talking about initiative of bringing project program and portfolio topics to the people who really interested to develop themselves into better project program and portfolio managers. So how are you today?
I'm very fine, and thank you, Dharam, for setting up and organizing these webcasts where we can exchange some ideas that are hopefully interesting to project, program, and portfolio managers.
Yeah, perfect. So, Thomas, we have talked about many topics about PgMP, program management, and many other good topics. So, I hope people are enjoying them, so they can go back and look at that YouTube channel. And we will continue to build this archive of knowledge, knowledge bank, where people can benefit from such a like discussion we're going to have today and going forward. So. As people already know, Thomas is well known in the space of project program portfolio management, and he himself is a PMP, PgMP, living in Frankfurt. So, Thomas, welcome again.
Thank you.
So today I'd like to talk about another interesting topic. It's very, very important for any project program and portfolio management. And most people know about it. And some people have confusion about this topic as well. Some people get confused between risk and issues as well. So let's talk about risk management, risk identification, risk mitigation at project program and portfolio management. So if you can please put some light around risk and what is risk management, talk about the opportunities, threats.
Yeah. Actually, interesting topic, not only for projects, programs, and portfolios, but also for our whole lives. We have so many occasions where we talk about risk, where we think about risk. So think about insurance companies who live from risks. Well, think about firefighters who prepare for any risks they might encounter. So risk is around the next corner because we as humans, we're looking to the future and try to predict what is going to happen. In the project, we call it the project management plan and a schedule, and then we also prepare for things that might happen and that are not in our plan. So that's exactly what we see when we look for risk identification. What could possibly go wrong? That's a question we pose to ourselves. And this is true for project managers regarding their target in the project, to create some deliverables out of a given scope, or in a program context where you're trying to create value out of benefits and manage the benefits as a core task, or in portfolios where you want to increase the value of the whole portfolio to the organization. And so you look, I have a plan for a portfolio, for instance. I want to increase the portfolio value like this, and this is my idea how to do that. I select the components in the portfolio to do that. And then the risk I'm looking at the portfolio level is what could possibly go wrong with that idea. And it's a good idea to have some kind of different scenarios at hand, that you can go into your drawer and say, okay, here's a plan B. If something happens, I prepared for that risk, for that deviation, and I have something in my mind already, which I can introduce. If I always, when I talk about risk, I look at the example of firefighters. The firefighters, they are called to extinguish a fire, and they have to be there in 5 or 6 minutes to go there, and then they first thing they do, they analyze the situation, say what is happening, and then they go into their car and they get the right tools out of that. And that's exactly what risk management is about. You have to prepare the right tools when you come to a situation that you can select the best tool how to handle the situation. This is a preparation for risk. So risk management in projects has been developed over the years, and it has been one person, David Hillson, who calls himself the risk doctor. He's a UK guy. I know him since 20 years or so. and he helped to shape that whole risk management chapter in the PMBOK guide, and he also was on the PMBOK edition 6 team, and he formed that a little bit better. So what they did in that team is they extended the concept to look at the so-called unknown unknowns, so the risks where you see, okay, I have a specific event, and if this event happens with a certain probability, it has an impact on my goals. This is the event-driven project risk analysis, which was there for some 20 years or so. But what they did in the new PMBOK guide, edition 6, is they introduced the risk of the overall project without knowing right now what could happen. But you know there is an environment which is a little bit volatile and uncertain, and you say, okay, this constitutes a project risk, which is really somehow to be taken care of. So how can you take care of a kind of volatile situation? And if you don't know what happens, if you have chaos, the best thing is that you are trying to become resilient. You have prepared for anything which could happen, and this is something how you could shape your project in terms of the governance model, or in terms of the skills you have on board, or in terms of how quick you can react to changing situations. So even such a overall project risk without knowing exactly what could go wrong is something you can prepare for, you can mitigate. By
Yeah.
the way, this overall project risk is the only type of risk that cannot be escalated to the program level, because that's a genuine task of the project manager to make sure that he understands that overall project risk and that he is somehow trying to get a hand on it and trying to handle it. And other risks, the event risks, if a project manager says, okay, this is a risk event that happens to my project, and I know the probability, and this is the impact, then he can say, okay, I have no best way how to handle it. So I can try to ask the sponsor, the program manager, to handle it. I can escalate it. There's also
Yeah.
a new concept. These kind of event risks are now able to be escalated, which was not the case in the previous PMBOK versions. So now a program manager or a sponsor receives from his components escalated risk and has to help these guys how to fulfill them. Some of these risks might be events that not only affect one project, maybe the whole program, or even more of that. And that's the purpose why escalation is there. The program manager will still go back to the project manager and say, please handle that risk by yourself. If it's within your scope and within your area of your power, what you say there. But good program managers would help the project managers anyhow how to solve these risks. On the portfolio level, the same thing. Program managers can escalate things on the portfolio level. If the overall value of that portfolio is at risk, then it can be escalated. The portfolio manager would take care of it, and the portfolio manager could easily, say, okay, I will stop this program, I will stop this project, because now a risk came up, which is jeopardizing the expected benefits and the value that would come out of that component. So the decision to stop a project or to change a project or to change a business case, is not done on the project or program level, but it's done on the portfolio level, because they have to make sure that the components together provides a value to the organization and fulfills the strategy. So it goes together. Every level of project, program, and portfolio has a different view on risks, but they are interconnected, not only by escalation, but also by pull down by decisions made by the upper level on the lower levels. So I think that's how the connection is, and I really like the image of a firefighters, because they have to react quite quickly. They have to prepare for everything, and they also can escalate. If there is if they go there with one firefighting car and machine, and you see there's a lot of more things going on, explosives or chemicals attacks, so they are able to escalate and to call in more of them, and it's a process that's predefined. So I think we will more and more come from that structured version of having a pre-planned project to a more flexible approach like the firefighters.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. Good thoughts. So, Thomas, yeah, the risk is not only, as per PMI, risk is not only a threat, it's also opportunity.
Oh
So
yes.
we need to recognize opportunities as well. And if we know something is possible in future, we try to do something to make it possible.
That's absolutely true. And, project managers tend to more see the negative risks, the threats, because
Yeah,
they have a predefined idea, they have a target to fulfill, they have a budget and a schedule, and everything what is changing, what's coming up. It's a human trait, you look at something that's coming in, surprises you, and the first thing is you ask yourself, is it a threat, and so project managers are falling to that bias, and that's it. A program manager, in contrast to that, has to deliver high benefits and high value. So he might look at disruptions and of things, changes coming in more in the way, how can it help me to even create a higher value, to even create better benefits? So that's one of the, let's say, cultural differences between a project manager and a program manager. But a project manager is more defensive on occurring risks and tends to see them as threats. Um, but a program manager would tend to see risks rather as opportunities which are to be exploited and to be enhanced and to be used to create a higher benefit.
yeah, perfect. So, Thomas, let me rephrase or maybe try to give another my view of risk and risk management. So let me give you example. You took example of firefighter, but let me say you have to cross a big jungle, and other side of the jungle there's a huge treasure sitting. But to cross the jungle, they have to go through number of hurdles and wild animals, and so many things can happen in this one. It's a very dark, very dense jungle. So there are two ways we can approach. One is you have a good team, guys, let's get started because we have limited time. We are competing with time with other teams. Let's get started. Let's see what happens. And these people have not done enough planning. They have not done any risk management. They took some tools and equipment, but down the track, when they see is something which they have not planned for, they have not anticipated, they are not ready, they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
Whereas second team, if let's say they take extra time, it's another issue of just get started. Let's say, okay, guys, let's talk about it. It's very important to reach there, and very high profile, and a lot of like life as well on stake, and money is there. So let's talk, let's discuss. So they do the proper planning, and they see, guys, let's talk about possible risk in this area. Let's talk about wild animal. Let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about different areas, so they can identify as many risks as possible, and also identify which risk is most likely. Probability of happening particular risk is more, and again also happening of risk and also impact. There may be a risk which is very likely, but the impact is very low. So let's not worry too much about it. But there can be a risk which is uh, like a medium risk, but if that happen, or impact is huge. So let's work it out. So these people have done all enough planning. They got like a response plan. So when they are in going through the jungle, going through this big project, they know exactly what if this happen, now it's happening. Because as part of the risk management, you need to identify the triggers. What is the what is telling you there's possible risk coming? So trigger conditions are very, very important. Identify them as part of the risk identification. Okay, if we're going in the jungle and we see the wild animal, especially the like a lion or tiger, how can we know this is coming? So maybe some signs, some movement or some particular sound can help us to identify, so we can be more prepared. So identify as much information as possible with this risk identification will definitely help the team number two.
Yes. I think, Dharam, that I like the analogy of that two different teams preparing for crossing the jungle. The first team, you said, they are not preparing well. They're not thinking what could happen, so they are going there. And there are two things. They are not prepared to do something. They haven't planned for some action, some mitigation, or whatever. But also, they as a team have a common fear or a common anxiousness. So they don't feel well, as a team and prepared and resilient enough to cross that jungle. So this fear itself might attract other animals and dangers in that jungle. While the other team, they not only prepared and have tools at hand and ways how to mitigate and how to react on these lions and tigers and whatever comes in there, but they also have a joint mindset because they did prepare it together. And I think that's a very important thing. If you are in a project and you think, okay, now let's do some risk identification. It's not only about identifying the risk, but also establishing that mindset of being open and that mindset of trusting each other. So it can also be used as a teaming exercise to think about risks, and to make sure that everybody is on board and everybody is comfortable in that context, that we together can manage it. Because that's the point, often if we are in the jungle, in the desert somewhere, if we are alone, we feel maybe more endangered. But if we are in a group, we feel more safe.
Exactly. And by the way, Thomas, the situation number one is more common because the businesses are looking for faster results. They don't worry. They don't want to wait for you to do the planning or proper planning, risk management, and come up with the risk mitigation plan. So they just get, guys, I don't care, get started. I will give you enough money and just get started. And in such programs, failure rates are very, very high. And, without realizing, these businesses are impacting themselves negatively.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So great.
So let me ask you a question, and talking about risk management, and risk management is part of the PMBOK guide, is regarded as a good practice, and as we talked about, not only in projects but also in life, to do that. So when I look at the agile concepts like Scrum or Kanban or what we have, did you ever see some thoughts about establishing a risk management environment?
Yeah, even in the agile environment, while most of people they said there's no documentation, no process to follow. Actually, it is more important in agile environment to understand some of the basic things like risk is very important in the agile environment, because here we have a team of people. They are working very hard with the product owner or business owner and trying to get some of the product out as fast as possible. They need to understand very basic risk, like if the product is not of the quality, if we go in the market first and the quality is of not acceptable, that actually get negative impact for the product but also for the organization. And you may have seen number of recalls, some of the car get recalled, some of the product get recalled. It's because they're trying to do, they're trying to go to the market faster, and in that they are not focusing on the quality, and that is situation even worse. So part of the project management program, and we also talk about cost of quality. So when we are analyzing, sometimes when we say, okay, guys, go ahead and do the work, we need to see, are we okay to take the risk of bad quality? Sometimes it is okay because it is internal product. It is just going building some reports or a few things. So that's okay. Let's get started and see what happens. But when we are working on some of the high profile product or new product or impacting the customer, impacting lives of people, we have to think about what can we do to improve the quality, to get the best product out in the market. That's where we need to do thorough risk management, risk identification.
Good, thank you.
And yeah, so Thomas, it's good. And a part of our program, we do talk about risk management and whether it's a PgMP program, a program manager professional, or PMP programs or portfolio program. Risk is very, very important, and PMI is very, very focused on the risk management. Rather, actually, PMI has started a risk management professional certificate. So risk management is an important topic. So they have started a certificate, RMP. So I think it started in 5, 6, 7 years ago, and a lot of people are benefiting from that. So in that, they are talking more about tools and techniques, the various tools, technique which can be useful for different environment, different type of work you're doing. So it is worth reading that risk management practice guide, and of course the PMBOK guide has a risk chapter, and the standard for project management, program management, portfolio management, both have detailed discussion about how to deal with the risk at the program level and portfolio level.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks Thomas. It was good discussion and good insight from your experience. I'm sure people are going to get benefit out of this. At any time they need to talk to you or talk to me, they can always reach out to us via LinkedIn, and they can book some time with me, or also the phone is always there. So any last minute thoughts before we close?
Well, I think we talked a lot about risk, and there's more to say about it, so we could extend this easily by 2 or 3 hours. But I think for the purpose of this first, having an idea what it is, and giving some fresh thoughts, and maybe initiating some further reading, that's enough. And I thank you, Dharam, for having this nice discussion and having some not normal ways to discuss about risks.
Yeah, and I like to see if the people who are listening to this podcast, your thoughts around risk, and how do you mitigate, or you have some special ways to handle certain situations, or maybe some example. So that will also help us to learn, and people who are other people watching will also learn from you. So thanks all for watching, and thanks Thomas once again, and see you soon with another topic and another interesting discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dharam.
Take care.